Hello my lovelies, welcome back to the channel, and I hope you are all having a great weekend so far and a happy Sunday to you all. My name is Sharon, I am 62 years old and I started this YouTube channel at the end of January this year, purely to document really my new way of living. Although it wasn't brand new, I'd already been living in this property for 2 years. So in January 23 I moved out of the property that I was living in, the family home, and moved into this rented property. And of course, as the channel name suggests, I earn just a few p over minimum wage per hour, and of course I have all the bills to manage just like everybody else. I have rent, TV license, energy, and all of that good stuff that we all have to pay, unfortunately. So it was something that I'd wanted to do for quite some time, and I just bit the bullet and got on with it, which I think you have to do if you really want to do something. So if you are interested in personal finance, seeing food shopping hauls, the occasional recipe, and me talking about budgeting or sinking funds and that kind of thing, then I would love to have you subscribe to the channel. And any likes and comments and subscriptions are of course always greatly appreciated, especially now we are monetized and I am able to do some charitable donations, albeit not as big as I would like them to be, but we're doing something to help those less fortunate than ourselves with food bank shops, etc. And that is all thanks to you guys. So anybody who watches the ads for over 30 seconds, that is very much appreciated, because I think you have to do that for YouTube or Google ads to pay out on that. So slightly different video today than I had originally planned, but something cropped up today, which is Saturday. So I've just finished work 9 to 5 and I've still got to cook dinner and do various things in preparation for eating tomorrow, with my son coming round with his girlfriend for Sunday lunch. I've got an itchy ear, please excuse me. So yeah, let's crack on and get into it. So basically today's video has been brought to you because of a fellow YouTuber and subscriber to my channel. The channel is called Mandy Sorts It Out, and I was listening to Mandy's latest YouTube video between calls this morning whilst I was working. Very naughty, please don't tell the boss. And she had mentioned about my sinking fund video last week. And there were a few things that I felt, or Mandy has said, she felt a little bit confused by. So I've got some notes. So I'm going to cover those things first, just in case anybody else is confused. Because lots of people, I realise, may not want to ask questions. They may feel that the questions are too personal. But, you know, certain things I feel are personal in my life, but other things I'm more than happy to answer. And I know that all the things that Mandy has asked of me, I'm more than happy and comfortable to talk about. So I'm going to go through the things she mentioned in her video first of all, and hopefully it might help some of you guys also to understand a little bit more about my sinking funds after last week's sinking fund video. And then also I've got some specific questions from Mandy once we got chatting. She sent those through to me, so I'll cover those afterwards. So the first thing that I want to say, I want to preempt it by saying something that I've said quite a few times on the channel, that until recently, when I've added some new sinking funds like glasses, dentist, transport, that kind of thing, I always felt like my sinking funds were quite indulgent and that they were all about me trying to live well on less. I'm never going to have the kind of life that I had before because my income and outgoings do not allow for that, but I'm still trying to, you know, be able to buy a new lipstick if I need one, meet a friend for a coffee if that comes up, and still to have holidays. And again, I've mentioned I am extremely lucky that I have friends that live overseas that I can visit in 2 different countries, and I also know a couple of people who rent out places overseas at very reasonable prices, which I've stayed at before. So yeah, but I felt that everything was quite indulgent, and then we've started to change them up recently, and there have been some new additions to the sinking funds that you would have seen in last week's video. But one thing I do want to mention that Mandy brought up is I don't have any sinking funds for annual expenses. And that is because I don't have any annual expenses. So of course you can have whichever sinking funds you like and whichever ones you need, because your sinking funds should of course support your lifestyle, the way you want to live, what you want to save for, what you need to put money away for. So whether that's on a monthly basis or an annual basis, for example, you might have annual expenses, say car tax. For example, I don't run a car, so that's an expense that I don't have. If I did run a car, I'd have a lot less money to live on per month, but I don't even drive actually. So yeah, that's never going to come into the equation for me because I'm not going to start learning to drive at the age of 62. But yeah, I'm sure lots of people, for example, might pay their TV license annually rather than monthly like I do. And there could be things like insurance premiums and things that, again, people prefer to pay annually, where they're usually a little bit cheaper than paying on a monthly basis. So this was something that Mandy mentioned in her video. It wasn't one of the specific questions, but just to let you know that I don't have any annual expenses in my sinking funds. What I found really interesting also, and Mandy's really given me some food for thought here. So with her budgeting, so she will look at her annual expenses, say birthdays, for example, and she will think about what she's going to spend on each person in the year coming up, and then she will divide that over the 12-month period. And although I've seen her do that in her videos before, it was only today when her and I were talking about sinking funds, I thought, do you know what? Rather than me sitting playing around with the amounts of money each month that I put into different sinking funds, wouldn't that actually be a really good idea to do that? So I think it was probably brought about because I'd mentioned that I've got a lot of birthdays coming up. I've had an unexpected birthday expense because one of my friends has got quite a big milestone birthday. She's having a hog roast situation thing somewhere in a hall. Well, it'd be outside. I wouldn't think a hog roast would be a light in a hall. And I'm very much looking forward to that hog roast, I have to say. But another friend of mine suggested that as it is a big birthday for her, that we should do something, we should treat her to something. And so we have booked an afternoon tea that required a deposit of £10 per head. And my friend and I are going to be paying for the birthday girl's afternoon tea. So that wasn't something up until a couple of weeks ago that was even in my head, because usually for that particular friend, it would just be a birthday card. So that, in addition to the family birthdays that I've got coming up in October, it means that I've really got to think about my sinking funds for the birthday fund that I have over the next couple of paydays for August and September, and increase the amount that I'm putting in. But thinking about the way that Mandy does it, I kind of made a list of all the birthdays that are coming up and scheduled between now and the end of the year. And that comes to £172.50. So, yeah, I thought that was a really, really good way of looking at how much money I need to put in that sinking fund for August and September. It's going to be a lot, guys, isn't it? So that's not good. But if I looked at it annually, like Mandy does, it would be much better. And I would be putting more in than I seem to put in. But I looked at the 4 kids, the 6 grandchildren, the 3 son-in-laws. I should say daughter-in-law as well, because although my son's not married, they've been together quite a few years now. The friends that I buy for, there aren't many, but I've added that all up to what I would normally spend roughly on that person, and it comes to £355 annually. That then works out to $29.58 per month. So thank you, Mandy, because I have decided from January's payday, or even the end of December's, I think the end of December's, I'm going to be putting £30 a month into the birthday sinking fund, because also don't forget, I buy my cards out of that as well. I buy any gift wrap or gift cards that are required. And it's not just birthday cards, it could be anniversary cards as well that I buy out of the birthday sinking fund. So Mandy has really inspired me on that one. And I think that's really going to help me not to have to worry about months that I need to put in more money. So that was good. I also thought I would do exactly the same thing for my socialising sinking fund, because I'm going to have a very big and expensive special day out in December that my friend Sharon and I over at Living on a Part-Time Income, we do every year. But instead of getting into a complete panic about that, like I did back in the end of May for my June sinking funds, which I'll talk about in a moment, and I'm thinking that if I set an amount of money, train fare, what I think will be spent that day on what we're going to be doing, I'm going to budget around £150 for that. So that means that for August, September, October and November, I need to put £37.50 in my socialising sinking fund just to cover that London trip out. And I guess I'm going to need to put another £10 in each month just to cover if I'm going out for a coffee with a friend, or maybe having a lunch out. Of course, there are there's nothing in the diary right now, but these things crop up, and there are friends that I see regularly, and a few weeks go past and they say, oh, we must meet up for a coffee and that kind of thing. So I need to have that covered as well. So £37.50, if I put £45 in per month, you can see that's going to be 2 really big amounts of money in 2 sinking funds. And then we're going to have to split up the rest of the £187 that I have to live on each month into much smaller amounts into the other funds. But I'm liking it, and I really appreciate that Mandy has inspired me to look at it in that way. And I think that's the good thing about this community and all of these channels. We all pick something up from time to time. You know, and I've been watching Mandy's for a good few weeks now. I think she started her channel a few months back and I wasn't aware of it. And then I said to her, why didn't you tell me? But when I found it, obviously I tried to catch up on some of the content. But today was the first time I was inspired to think, let me do it that way. Let me work all my birthdays out for 2026 and see how much I need to put in a sinking fund to get me through. Another thing that Mandy mentioned in her video was about the balances of my sinking funds. Now, the majority of them, because they are mainly for monthly expenses, there's not always a balance on some of those going forward. So, for example, my hair sinking fund, I tend to put in £30 a month. There'd be £30 going in there at the end of August. There'd be £30 going in there at the end of September. And that will cover the £60 for my hair appointment at the beginning of October. So my hair really should be done before my September payday. But I know I won't have the money then. So my appointment is already arranged for the beginning of October. My hairdresser only works part-time, different days each week. I have different days off each week. Sometimes it's very difficult to get an appointment booked in, but that one, thankfully, already is. But I sort of know there's never going to be, you know, 1 month there's going to be £30 in there. The next month on payday, there'd be 60, but maybe a week later, there'd be nothing. So a lot of them don't have money that is carried over month on month. Sinking funds, like for example, holiday will have, the home one that I've started will have, transport will have, but not all of them have a balance when it comes to the end of the month. So those were kind of the things I wanted to cover from what she mentioned in the video. And then I took a screenshot on my other phone of the specific questions, and then I will answer these. Already on 17 minutes. Wow. Okay. Right. Do you ever struggle to split the money between them because there are lots of things coming up? Absolutely. There are times that has been the case. And I think now, if I adopt this new way of working things out, I can also budget for my twice a year, big days out, once in the summer and once in December. I'm going to really look at that going forward for 2026. And I don't know if you ever saw the video at the end of May when I got in a complete panic about all the things I had coming up in June. And I thought I was going to have a panic attack. And it was quite funny because my friend Sharon, she's got a lovely smiley face when you look, you know, when you click on her vlogs, she's always so happy and smiling. It makes me smile just seeing her. We were talking about June and she said, oh my God, so I can feel my hair stuck in my glasses. Like June's going to be a really spenny month for me as well. And she was saying it like that. And I was sitting here going, ba-dum. I don't know I'm going to pay for everything this month. We had two completely different attitudes to it. It was actually quite funny. But it was just as I'd sat down to start work and I kept the envelope and I wrote everything out on an envelope. And it was only once I'd done that I could see clearly, because I'd been paid the overtime from Easter Monday in my May salary, that I actually had enough to do everything I needed to do. So I just wrote it all out on the back of an envelope. And once I'd done that, I could look at it and think, I've got enough. This month I've got enough. And it came to £234.87. That was the budget that I had to cover. I had two of my daughter's birthdays. I had an engagement party to go to and cards to buy for those. I had a hair appointment. I needed brow gel. I I needed my train fare to London. I needed to budget for my lunch. Yeah, it was just, there was loads of things. So once it was written on that envelope, I could breathe. I knew I had enough money to do it. And what I didn't do that month, I didn't split the money into pots. I put it all into a bank account and I spent from that account. And then what I did was I logged it in my notebook to see if I came in under budget, because for some things I did, and I probably went through this, it would have been the June month end video. So for example, I had budgeted £23 for a birthday present and I actually spent £19.55. The other birthday present, I budgeted £23. That came in at £20.85. So I could see where I was clawing little bits back to account for things that I went over on. So yeah, we got there in the end, and it all worked out okay eventually. So right, on to the next. So yeah, that was a month where the money was not split into pots. Right, next question. Am I happy with all of the pots, or do I wish I could put more in some? I absolutely do, of course, because I do wish that I could put more in savings. I don't feel that, obviously, again, it's personal choice and supporting the way that you want to live. And the way that I've had my sinking funds set up have not allowed me any money for savings. I've only started saving since my first YouTube income, of which there have been 2 payments. And then there will be another one at the end of August. So obviously I'm really happy that I've now got savings. But yes, I do wish I could put more money into some. 100%. Do I have sinking funds on paper but one savings pot, or do you reflect your sinking funds with different saving pots? Different saving pots. So as they were mentioned in last week's video, these are the pots. Hair, self-care, birthdays, holiday, socialising, transport, home, glasses, dentist, emergency fund. Those are the pots. I also have a pot called clothes and I have a pot called vintage. The only reason there is some money in the vintage one is because I've had the refund back on the monsoon dress that I returned. So I've got £34 in the vintage pot, only just transferred into that. And I'm going to spend that money on underwear now rather than a dress, because summer's coming to an end and I've managed with what I've got. So yeah, so different pots, not just one account that I spend out of willy-nilly. I feel that I need to be a lot more organised than that. And I like to see where it's going and not just have £187 in my purse and just live my life for the month and going and buying foundation and going and buying a coffee and a sandwich for lunch with someone, and hopefully at the end of the month I haven't run out of money or there's a little bit over. I personally, I have tried it and it didn't really work for me. I prefer the pots. And I think that was the last one. Yeah, it was. Do you have sinking funds on paper? And of course, some people will have their sinking funds in envelopes, like all of the cash stuffing videos that are out there, which I do love to watch. It's not something that I do. I wouldn't want to have that much cash wrapped around me. Equally, if you're using cash for everything, you're missing out on so many rewards and things that you can get from say, shopping online, or maybe your bank offers incentives, cashback sites when when you're shopping online, things like that. Yeah, buying gift cards. You can't go online and buy a gift card if you've got cash. So yeah, as much as I would love to have all those little packets of cash, it would worry me having a lot of money laying around the house, really, or on my person, because you just never know, do you? So yeah, that I love how people do it, and I would love to do it, but I know that deep down I wouldn't, because when you think about things like say a Chase account, for example, if you have so much going into a Chase account, you get rewards on that. So if you've got all that cash in the house, if that could go into Chase and earn you rewards on that money. So yeah, I'm not going to quote the exact details of the Chase because I don't qualify for that. I don't have that much money going in. You know, I don't really use my Chase card for that. I tend to use my Chase and my Starling more for overseas spending, getting that interbank rate so that you're not getting any charges on it. So yeah, so hopefully, Mandy, that has covered your questions. And anybody who's got any more, then please feel free to drop them in the comments and I will definitely try to cover them. Didn't realise it was going to take up almost 30 minutes, but yeah, I do gabble on a bit, don't I, guys? So there you go. But hopefully that has kind of not so much set the record straight, but clarified things a little bit for anybody that might feel a little bit confused. And of course, I did have a comment on last week's video saying they would like to see a sinking fund video every month. That is definitely going to happen because that really helps me as well as an idea for content. So we will definitely be doing that going forward. And then you'll be able to see how I incorporate the ideas that I have had from Mandy in working out that money for my Christmas day out, my big London day, and also the birthdays that I've got coming up. So we're going to see some really big changes in those sinking funds because there's going to be two that need a lot more money going into them, and there will be other pots that are going to suffer because of that. So yeah, that basically is it, I think, guys. Also, I think I found a rug online at a really good price. The home sinking fund was set up for things that I need. I feel a rug is the first thing. And there's lots of household things that I want. I must get a frame for that Lisbon print over there. I've been staring at that for 2.5 years. I think a frame is £5 in Sainsbury's. I must get a frame for that because that's driving me nuts. So rug, frame. Next important things, I want 2 glass jugs, Pyrex or just own brand glass measuring jugs. I want to get away from the plastic, chopping boards, that kind of thing. I need weighing scales. There's loads of things. So now I've got the home fund. You know, I'm really looking forward to being able to buy some extra things that I feel I need or want around the house. So better leave it there. 28.44, 28 minutes, 47 seconds. Let's go. Thank you so much for joining me today. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate you being here and for your support as always. Please pop over because the people that support me, I love to support them back. And especially as a fairly new channel, I know how difficult it is to grow. Some people take off like a rocket. It doesn't happen to everybody. So if you can give any support to Mandy over at Mandy Sorts It Out. I did put a link to her channel in one of my videos a couple of weeks ago. But be sure to put in your search bar, Mandy Sorts It Out. and go give her some love over there. Thanks, guys. Take care, and I'll see you on Wednesday. Bye for now.